Adam, welcome to our Leaders Who Care series. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Well, shout out to Annalie Gould,
Yeah,
who was
for
the one
sure.
that introduced herself, and she may ask for a raise after this, or I don't know. Don't see what happens.
I have a feeling just knowing Annalie that her motivator isn't money.
It's clearly correct on Annalie. So, but yeah, it was super nice of her to introduce us, and I guess the best way to start, if you would, is briefly introduce yourself. Don't say everything because then I'll have nothing else left to talk about.
No,
Basically.
I'll just
But
I
start
get it.
with where you're from, your family. Maybe there's
Yeah.
something you've never told anybody ever, and you want to announce it now.
Now's the time for that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so no, I am Adam Hofmann. I spent 22 years in the insurance industry and now am building something that we'll talk about in the decentralized blockchain space, still with insurance. But I grew up outside of Boston. I live on Cape Cod now. I have 5 kids. My wife and I have 5 kids, which is absolutely wildness. So, in this startup world, when people are like, you better get used to rejection and weird hours, and I'm like, please, I have 5 kids. Like, if we can do that, we got everything else. So, we can dig in more on my journey, but that's who I am. And I have 2 cats. I should mention Milo and Penny as well. So
yeah, you don't want to hurt their feelings or the kids.
No.
Who might say, "Hey, what about the cats?"
Exactly.
So, how old are your kids?
Okay, so we'll go from oldest to youngest. We have 22, 20, 18, 16, 15.
Yeah, you are busy.
Yeah. It's that kind of like when friends of ours have like young kids, and it's so much work. It is so much work to have young kids. And they're like, oh, when your kids get older and it must be so much easier. I'm like, it's still, you're still parenting, it wouldn't happen any other way, but you're still parenting.
I have a 95-year-old aunt that's in Montreal, like a second mom. And she once said to me, it's not going to get better. It's not going to get worse. It's just going to get different.
Different. I love it. It's true. It's true. And I had when I was a kid, actually, a friend of mine, his dad said something that stuck with me even now as a parent, that I remember we were just kind of talking, whatever. And we're like, oh man, having kids, that's hard work. And then they get to be teenagers. And what if they do dumb stuff like we're doing, that kind of combo. And he's like, no. The hard work is when they're little. If you do that great job with their like emotional well-being when they're little, then those challenges when they're teenagers it's a little bit easier. And I was like, that makes so much sense, So I actually carried that with me.
No, it does make sense, actually, and to give them that strong foundation. Although Jay Leno once said, I think it was Jay, he said, this is what happens with kids. He said, when they get to be 13 or 14, they're basically abducted by aliens. And then they go somewhere, you don't know where they went, but they went somewhere in 19, 20, 21, they bring them back, and they're almost normal. So,
yeah. We've been so lucky. Our kids, even through the teenage years, have been amazing. And as much as I'm a part of that, I credit my wife on her ability to just be so open to any conversation about anything at any time. So it's like, man, it's been a good ride for sure.
Well, I got 3 boys, which makes me always move towards how tradition is so important, especially with respect to who pays for weddings.
Oh God, yeah, that's all. That's the only focus, right? Yeah.
So we're talking about kids. When you were a kid or teenager or teen, was it all about music, or did you have any inkling towards giving your friends protection?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about insurance and in exchange for something that you really valued.
Yeah. I mean, there was no thought of insurance. I mean, for me, I fell in love with music very early on, and I kind of fell in love with it when I was a little bit older. Like I don't even know, however old you are, in 6th grade, I started playing the piano. So my entire focus was music. Music to this day is a great way for me to express myself, but also understand things that are, or challenges that I'm going through. Music always has a way of cutting through the noise, no pun intended. So for me, it was always about music. Always, always, always. That was the thing that kept me moving. And then, you know, at the time, my wife, well, now my wife, but we girlfriend, boyfriend kind of thing. And Janelle was the first person that kind of challenged that love of music, because I was like, oh, damn, I love this person as much as I love that. Now what am I supposed to do? Right. So, but anyways, when we started having kids, that's when I transitioned, like, from the music. I went to Berklee College of Music and all that. But when we had kids, I kind of pivoted over to insurance as we raised our family, and spent 22 years there building my career. And I tell the story that when I finally left that industry to start Nimble, which is the business I'm building now, I said to Janelle, that's my wife, I said to Janelle, God, it feels like there's like gravel and dirt that's like out of my body. And she's like, why did you work in an industry for 20 years that felt like you were like internally like full of gravel and dirt? I'm like, I don't know. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, you probably figured, so I got my CPA and I wanted to be a broadcaster or a hockey player. But you probably feel, I should not say what you felt, but that was the safe place to go, maybe to build up or whatnot. But I'll bet you, first of all, I'm sure you had a great experience at Berklee because it's a great school for music. I'll bet you have found, like you said, the music to support everything you've done.
100%. It's one of the things that I'm most grateful for, is that music never left me. It never was a hobby or anything. It was just very much a part of who I am as a person. And even in those moments of, like, you know, corporate kind of jobs. And I'm thankful for all that too, because I'm lucky. My kids are blessed. We're all blessed, you know, where we are, healthy and all that. But music was always helpful for me in that way. And definitely it was that kind of get in the car after a long day or whatever in the office and you can put the music on. Or I remember the moment my oldest son, Greg, walked downstairs from his bedroom and goes, Dad, the Grateful Dead are awesome. And I was like, yes, you know, like, you know, you have that moment. Those are the things that keep you going, for sure.
No, that's a great example, because
Yeah.
you always, moments tie into music so often in your life. And you know, this happened when that was playing, and this happened, and then when you hear it, it's like it just goes right to that,
Right back. Yep. 100%.
It's too cool. So, you know, I was wondering how you made the change to the stereotype of insurance isn't exciting and emotionally charged business, basically.
No,
but
it really isn't.
but you know, I compare a lot of things to sports. It's kind of like the same thing that you compare, I think, to music with respect to discipline and learning and people coming together and whatnot. And I wanted to ask you, you know, so you do a lot of good when you're in the insurance business, and you have to look at it that way. Otherwise, what's the purpose? It's just a job, and you're going to get burnt out a lot faster. So, on that sense, compared to you, we founded our business basically on the premise that leaders in their business can do much better when they're doing good. So, from a business perspective, which it is, share how you began creating a decentralized insurance company, which what that means for everyone, and then how Nimble's leading the way to build trust, equal access, et cetera, so you can get economic and social impact at the same time.
Yes. You know, I love the way you frame that, because that is what it's about. You know, the whole concept of insurance is noble, right? Like, there's this idea that people can be made whole when there's damage or there's loss or there, you know, all of that. But we all know that that isn't always the way it looks right now in the state of insurance. And for a long time, I tried to figure out a solution to that. There were a lot of times in insurance where, you know, I'd be in a position where I had to explain to someone why their rates went up, or, you know, why they couldn't get the coverage they need, or communicating with an underwriter or an insurance company and trying to make sense of what's happening. And it's this weird place, especially like if you're in the agent position, insurance agent position, where you're trying to help your customers, you're trying to communicate what the underwriter's saying, but every once in a while, it just, there's no logic to it. Like, I couldn't make it click. Like, I understand the idea that insurance companies need to make money. If they didn't, they couldn't exist, right? Like, and then no one has insurance. But that to me wasn't a deep enough answer to like, but why are the rates still going up? Why are, that's tricky. So for the longest time, I tried to make sense of that. And that's part of that music brain where it's like, if I can make sense of this, then I'm fine. I couldn't. 22 years of it, I couldn't. It wasn't until I started exploring the world of crypto, which I found quickly was, I don't really care about crypto as much as and I don't mean I don't care about it, but it's not as interesting to me as the blockchain technology that, allows crypto to be crypto, which then even further is about the decentralization. To me, that's when the light bulb went off, because I was like, oh, we're talking about a technology that allows us to remove an intermediary that isn't evil by nature. It's just that there's all this inefficiency within it, which means that inefficiency gets passed off to the consumer. And then sometimes consumers are kind of fenced out of even participating, can't get insurance, paying premiums over and over again, that kind of thing. So that's how it came to be. So what Nimble is and what decentralized insurance is leveraging the blockchain technology to decentralize and democratize the capital. So an insurance company, if you take any of them, they have a ton of money. That's how they're able to say, we're going to pay claims if you have a claim. If we decentralize that, what you're saying is those insurance companies can still provide that money. Investors can provide that money. You and I and anyone else can provide that capital. And they could do it for $100. They could do it for $1,000, whatever that may be. But they're going to get a steady return on that. Mm-hmm. So you're opening up an asset class that hasn't been investable for regular people. To me, I love that. Then you're creating a system where in the middle of that, you have underwriters and actuaries who are also working decentralized. And all that means is they're not working for anyone. They're working for themselves. They're working to build something profitable, to give someone the model they need to insure their art collection or whatever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. So that gives them an opportunity that they've never had. And then finally, all of that together means when you and I pay our premiums into what we call risk pools, so into those pools of capital that insure something, if the year goes by and there's less claims than were anticipated, you can actually get some of your premium back because your premium was in there to pay claims. If they weren't used to pay claims, get some of it back. Because of the technology and because of that decentralization, an insured taking some of their money back in a good year doesn't penalize the people investing, and it doesn't penalize the professionals working there. So you're creating a system that's just truly democratized. And that to me is like, oh, it's so exciting because it opens up so many opportunities.
I think it's brilliant. And, I've been accused many times of trying to simplify things all the time. There's only so much room in here.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And it's getting, since there's no hair, that it leaves a lot also.
Floats on, it just floats out.
Exactly. So it almost makes me think of way back when, in fact, there was a movie, a documentary, a long one on YouTube called The Corporation at one time. Mm. And it was a story about how corporations came about. And the first one had so many restrictions on it. It had to have some public benefit. It couldn't acquire companies. There was a specific reason. So before even that, it seems to me that's kind of, and I love blockchain also for all sorts of reasons. It's kind of, we're back to basics, like we say in sports, where the village is helping everybody.
Yes.
And what you need, we can help you. If you don't need it or we didn't need it, we give it back, and we're helping each other. And no one's screwing us, to put it bluntly, by taking extra money or whatever it might be.
Right. And some of it's perception, some of it's real. So it's like, how do you mitigate that? Right. And we always say, like, insurance is necessary, but it doesn't have to be evil, because everyone's always like, insurance is a necessary evil. I'm like, it doesn't need to be evil. Like, we can take the evil out of it. And we think about that a lot, especially in brand design, and like, what does an insurance company look like and feel like? And it's like, you get to this point where until, the flows of the world and the geckos of the world came around, it was always stuffy and like tight and restrict. And I'm like, it doesn't need to be. Like, we all know why we're buying insurance. It's either because we need it or because if something horrible happens, we want to make sure we have it. We don't need to continue to drill into people's heads that like something bad can happen to you. We know we're all humans, right? So I agree. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the documentary, but again, like you use analogies to sports, and like you said, for me, it's music. I remember watching a music documentary. Oh, I can picture it, but I can't think of the name of it. But it's the same thing. It's about how the music industry used to be about finding artists and helping them.
Right.
And now it's about churn and burn, like just, and that has impacted how the music industry works and how people listen to music and how they hear music. And that's no different than, the documentary, The Corporation, or what happened in insurance. And the ability to draw those lines to me is like, all these businesses are doing the same thing. Like we need to evolve.
Yeah. And that's where the super important thing called trust comes in, and if the minute people don't trust, generally it's for a reason. Someone else has an agenda, they have an ego, they're greedy, whatever, perceived. And it's probably, like you said, more perceived and real at the same time. And that's when it becomes a problem. And not to get into politics, but whoever said politics also had to be evil?
Yeah, right. And that's exactly it. One of the things that we say a lot too, because it's a question that comes up all the time when we talk about decentralized insurance professionals. And that means they're anonymous. That means they're verified, certified, and everything, but they're anonymous. And we'll have either investors or, projects, partners, just people, whatever, saying, yeah, but how am I supposed to trust the person who's doing that underwriting if I don't know them? And the first time I said it, I was so used to saying it. It wasn't Annalie, but it was someone else on the team. I don't remember who laughed. And she's like, you just said that. And I'm like, yeah. So what I always say is fair. And I don't think I know everything. I don't want to know everything. You may be right. So can you tell me like what you learned about your underwriter the time that you sat down and had coffee with them? And they're like, oh, I don't know my underwriter. I'm like, right. It's just, it doesn't matter. Right. And they're like, they laughed and they were like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, we get scared about new technology. And I understand that, but man, it's funny how people can go from, I hate my insurance company to like, well, here's a solution. They're like, but I don't, it's like it's this kind of.
And the young people there's financial services online now. There's who goes to a stockbroker anymore?
Yeah.
And et cetera, et cetera. So it really is about, giving more people the opportunity to engage and be treated fairly in
Yes.
so many things, including insurance. And why does something that's needed, and everybody knows they need it, have to be regarded as, oh my God, I don't want to talk about it or anything like that? So
it's wild. And the amount of people who stay with their same insurance company, even though they express dissatisfaction with that same insurance company, because who wants to go through the process if the change is basically a lateral move? It's like, whatever. It's unfortunate.
So with respect to that, somebody like me or anybody else, how do you present Nimble to them?
Mm-hmm. That's a big focus for ours on, the user experience and the design, because in a perfect world, it doesn't matter to me if someone knows we're on blockchain or we're using, I just want their experience to feel comfortable to them, and then they're able to say, oh, that was rewarding, right? So what that means is a process that is using blockchain on the back end, so to say, but presented in a way that people are comfortable with. Looking at premiums, understanding what a premium is, understanding what it covers in a simple way, and buy and cover. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? That's showing them why it's secure. From an investor standpoint, if you're talking like about bringing an investor as what we call an LP, which is a liquidity provider in this space, providing liquidity into these risk pools, it's the same thing. It's how can we remove those barriers to say, you see this a lot in blockchain. Oh, it's easy. Don't worry about it. Go download that app, get a 25-word passphrase. Don't lose that passphrase. Sign in with that and then verify your credit. And people are like, you just said it was easy, right? So, how can we build that out so someone can say, I want to throw $100 in here and see if I, get 7 to 10% back. I want to see what that's like. How can they just use Apple Pay or their credit card or their debit card to do that? So that's always been a big focus of ours, and that's how we built Nimble.
And it's, if you think, well, the great name too, Nimble. And
Thanks. Yeah.
it's like anything, in our lifetime. I had this discussion with somebody a while back, how much we've seen changes in our lifetime, from no computers, no to now to so many.
Yeah.
How to get on a phone, you have to learn it too. People learned it. Steve
Yep.
Jobs figured that they're going to all want to learn it. So
Yep.
it's effective. But no, it's brilliant. And I kind of want to go down a little different road, but
Sure.
same. We work with so many of our clients on the value of well-being. Impacts their talent, impacts their business, all the way down. And we're even talking with a lot of clients about having chief well-being officers, because just having one in a program helps them attract the very best people who will take that as a factor to choose that company or not, if they don't have something like that. And the part about, I know I ask too long questions sometimes, but the part about, we said, it's a village, it's going back to basics of people helping people. Studies have shown time and time again that the thing that fills people's hearts and souls more than anything is belonging. And you can belong to, to your company that you work with, to your family, to a lot of things. But Anna Lee told me she couldn't believe that she was joining an insurance company, type of thing, or the insurance industry, kind of like yourself. So share how Nimble is creating community, if you will, getting trust from community within your company, with clients, because of, what your purpose is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think, it's funny, like Anna Lee is wildly qualified. She has so much experience. She's so talented. And she joined Nimble. I never thought she would, right? Like, I mean, it's insurance, it's crypto, it's a startup, like all these things. And she's been an amazing asset to the team, obviously. But it's been an interesting journey for me, because when I left traditional insurance to start this, I was conscious about, all right, I don't want to create the same thing that I was just a part of. I don't want to create that. But did I question it every day? Yes. Like every day I questioned, all right, I am basically interviewing people. And in the first, part of the call, I'm like, listen, I don't need to hear about your resume and prior work experience, because I can just look at it. Like I'm more than capable of reading. Like I'll do that. I want to get to know you. And that's the way I went in. And so many people, their guard went down. They felt comfortable. I'm not BSing them. They're not BSing me. And I was making decisions on building our team that way. But there were times where I'm like, God, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be really wrong, because this is what I'm doing. Turns out we're now 21 people, will be 22 people next week. So far, so good. This team, and Annalie's a good example, because I said to her, like, well, do you want to talk to anybody else on the team? I can introduce you to the team. And she said, I think this is the only time, she was saying, the only time in her like career journey that she spoke to just random people on the team. And I'm like, well, we have to be that open. We're going to be doing really hard work. So all of that to say, I have no idea. Like, I'm just trying to be as authentic as I can. And so far it's worked out. And I believe it's helped us in the really hard conversations and hard decisions, because we can rely on the fact that even if we disagree, it's not threatening. We can disagree and still believe that we got this, right?
Well, think about it. If we all agree all the time, what new ideas are coming up?
Yes. I would say that that's the biggest challenge, I think, is like reminding people, like, you don't have to agree all the time. Right. And if you do, because everyone cares so much for each other, but when you do reinforce that, like we'll say courageous honesty, or like the book Radical Candor, like, let's just say the thing, like, let's just say the thing. Right. But that, I think that goes from a corporate to a corporate level too, or like we were playing around with this with a few people at a conference once about like, I don't, politics aside, like you said, whatever anyone feels about capitalism, I'm like, I just feel like, can't we have impactalism instead of capitalism? Like, like there's a way for like Nimble needs to make money to run a business, but we don't have to be predatory. We don't have to be taking advantage of.
Right.
There's a way for everybody to make money. Like,
I'll give you a good example if I can.
yes,
Because I've worked with a lot of sports teams. So I always could never understand the media when there's a trade between two teams in a league, and the media first says who won it and who lost the trade.
yeah,
Now, you're all in one league. You win a championship. How valuable is that championship if the league sucks? Basically,
right, yeah, right,
it's not valuable. So
exactly, yeah.
everybody has to win, and no one's a loser. They may have lost a game, but they're not losers either.
100, yeah, I like that analogy. And then for me, it's like there's also like this weird thing that happens in industry or in business where like, you know, CEOs, whoever, like corporations will be like, oh, the cool thing to do now is to care about your employees, or like to say that you have a wellness program. But like, it feels so insulting to me that the assumption is, oh, I can still be disingenuous and no one will understand or pick up on it. It's like, we all know we're all humans. Like, we're animals who know how to react to each other and have instincts. We all know, like,
well, that's how people also know. That's how people also know when we're retained by clients to do a lot of things, including talent. They'll ask specific questions, not like, do you have a diversity program or do you care about it? They'll say, well, what are you actually doing with it? You know, and just they want to hear the authentic answer.
Absolutely.
People feel disrespected if you BS them, you know?
They do, right? And it's like Annalise saying, like, getting to talk to different employees at Nimble. I'm like, well, if they have something bad to say, that's actually good, because then I can say like, oh shoot, I'm not trying to do that, or you know, oh, we need to improve that. And, you know, it reminds me of all the time I spent in like sales, where it would be like, you know, ask these questions because it you'll get someone to talk, or you blah. And I'm like, well, let's take the attack war analogies out of it. Like, our goal should be to have someone talk, because that, I mean, it shouldn't be to trick people, right? It's just, it's
yeah, there's two goals there. Let them talk, and maybe we should listen.
yes, exactly it. I've heard so many times, like, if you ask them questions, it seems like you're listening. And I'd be like, I don't think the goal is to seem like you're listening. I think the goal is to actually listen, right? Or like, you know, then we can redirect them. I'm like, we don't need to redirect them. They're going to tell us what their concerns are. And our response as another human being is, it doesn't sound like I can help you. Or it sounds like you need this and I think I can help you. And if that doesn't, okay, we're done. You know?
Yeah, it's brilliance is simple. Somebody once told me when I was in another company in Deloitte. So, so do you think the industry will follow?
I do. So my oldest is 22. He's 23. Wow, he's 23. Yeah. So my oldest is 23, and I see how he perceives the world, and it isn't that kind of stereotypical thing that people throw out there. He's a smart, hardworking kid with like a unbelievable work ethic, but the BS meter on his generation is just that they have no tolerance for it, and they shouldn't. So it's just not going to last. Like, I think some of that kind of positioning about how much you care about your employees or whatever is eventually going to just be like, oh, I actually do. Like, you know, it's going to eventually get there. It's just,
well, you know, and that's why we have these Leaders Who Care series. It's they found out that they really do have to care to attract, to develop, to keep the best people.
Yes.
And those best people, clearly, like you said, and it is a stereotype that all young people are lazy. That's a bunch of crap too.
Such crap.
You know, you can't generalize just like that. I have 3 boys.
They don't know how to talk anymore. I'm like, yes, they do. Like, you know,
we need to listen more, actually.
Right.
So last question I'm going to ask you on this is, a client told me once in 2021, he said about 2020, he said, you know, 2020, the year has flown by slowly. And I said, that's an amazing statement.
Yeah.
So now 21 and 22 have literally, here we are, zoomed by also in a different way. What are you most grateful for with all that? And what are you most hopeful for?
Yeah, man, it's been a long road, right? Like I think we're still, at least I am, I won't speak for anyone else. I'm still coming to terms with the impact of COVID over the last few years. And
For
of
sure.
course, not of the health stuff is very serious and horrible and sad, but I mean just how much it changed everything. So for me, I think, I am most grateful for my family, like beyond, like my kids and my wife and their ability to support me in the wildness of what was 2022. Because I will say that 2022 could, I agree with that statement, because 2022 could have either been 2 days long or 2,000 years long. Like I can't, I have no idea which it was, right? So um my kids have always been supportive. My wife has always seen things in me that I've never seen. So, I think that the ability to push me to do this and to build this, it makes me very hopeful for the future, because what I'm seeing building this team and building this product is an unbelievable amount of people who value partnerships. They value quality partnerships. They value making real change. And it isn't just greed and, you know, how many billions of dollars do you really need? Like, you know what I mean? Like there are people here who are building definitely in the decentralized space that just give me a ton of hope. And then seeing how amazing my kids are and knowing that they're going to be joining that world, like it's just, I feel a lot of hope.
Well, you give me hope. I'm glad you're
Good.
one of the leaders who care. We need many more of you, and
Thank
it's,
you.
it's happening more and more. So thank you for being that. Thank you for sharing all of this, and we'll be watching.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.